Good morning, folks. All right, it's intermediate hat day at court, right? So I get to wear a hat for this. Here's my brief layout of Louis Riel and how he became so effective in Canadian politics. So take a look here. He only lived 51 years. But man, what an impact. So, first of all, he was born Métis in Red River, and that means, he was of mixed blood. He was seen as a half-breed by the Europeans, and he was seen as too white by the indigenous. He believed in a Christian God, and he spoke English and French. He also spoke Cree, but he certainly, the Métis, they were largely social outcasts, even within their own people. At the age of 14, Louis was sent to go and study in Montreal. So from Winnipeg, he had to travel all the way to Montreal. He was only 14 years old. He was barely older than our grade 8 students. When he was sent away for a long time, for many years, he did not see his family. And in Montreal, he was supposed to study to become a priest, but after a while, he left that. He was very bright and a very fast learner, and he left school and he went to work for a lawyer. Now, in the same capacity that if you ended up working at a clothing store, let's say, you would be very differently influenced from if, say, you went to be a lifeguard, or if you went to work for a landscaping company. Well, he ended up working for a lawyer, and he found out how laws get made, and he found out how systems work, and how to get things done in politics. And this was a really, really influential part of his life. He learned about how governments work. Now, he also learned the rough side of racism against the Métis. He fell in love, and there was a young woman that he was very committed to, and they were going to be married. But her father said, no, you can't marry a half-breed. And so she said, okay, Dad, I guess I won't. And he was heartbroken. And that was his first real taste of racism against his people. Now, at the age of 22, he comes back home. Can you imagine being away from the age of 14 to 22? I mean, his dad passed away during that time. He didn't get to say any final goodbyes or anything like this. It was awful for him. But he returns home. He is now educated. He's definitely opinionated, and he loves his people. He's also very motivated, and he's a charismatic person. He's been around. He's seen things that the others haven't seen, and so they find themselves drawn to him. Now, 1 year later, so he's only been home for a little while, when, remember, the MacDonald government wanted nothing more for the West than to have it populated by white Protestants, even better if they're from Ontario, so they're English speaking. And he got control of what used to be Rupert's Land, right? Canada was able to buy Rupert's Land from the Hudson's Bay Company, and they purchase it from the Hudson's Bay Company, but no one bothers to tell the Métis or the First Nations that their land has been sold out from under them. They no longer, can you imagine that? Nobody even sent a memo, a letter, a notice. By the way, you're now on Canadian soil. You're no longer on the soil that was formerly owned by the Hudson's Bay Company under the permission of the British Crown. Now, you got a whole new government you got to deal with. So, John A. Macdonald sends a bunch of surveyors. These are people who go out and measure plots of land so that people know where the boundaries are. This is my property, that's your property. He sends out these guys, And again, the Métis don't know what they're doing, and they step on this one guy's farmland and start dividing it up as if he doesn't even exist. And he goes back to town, and he gets a bunch of armed men, including Riel. Now, Riel's the only one who speaks English well. So they go out and they stop these surveyors, and Riel says, "You cannot do this." Now they go back to town. And by the way, these surveyors have traveled from like Toronto. It's not a day trip. They spent a long time, they spent months getting out there. So this is, and he's going against the will of the Prime Minister. So that already we're seeing signs of boldness in Riel, that he's willing to stand up for what he believes in and for his people. Immediately after that moment, he goes back and they form the National Committee of the Métis. They start calling themselves a nation. And this is a proud nation. Okay, this proves that Riel is committed, he's organized, and that he's a leader. Now, not too long from now, the lieutenant governor is sent to this new province, really. That is, well, it's not yet a province, but they're calling it the Northwest Territories, and now it expands all over where Rupert's land was. And they sent the new lieutenant governor out there. I mean, Ottawa sent him. And he arrives, and the Métis block him from entering the colony where he's supposed to take up residence. He's supposed to live there. They block him. They say, "No, you cannot cross this border." He came through the States, and they said, "You can't cross this border." So this is a significant offense against Canada. But it's also a strong move for the nation of the Métis. They are making moves. They're ready to stand up and say, "Nope, that's not right. You can't do that." Now, regardless of what the Métis want, Canada sends white Protestant farmers, guarantees them land. They can go out there and they can have all this land. And tons of Irish farmers were going out there, and Scottish farmers were going out there, and they are told to go and settle at the Red River Colony. That's what that stands for. And now this becomes infuriating, and eventually Riel and some Métis, they go and they seize the fort. They take over the fort that used to be the Hudson's Bay Company headquarters. And they do it without even firing a shot. Basically, nobody was there. I mean, there were only a couple of people there. And Riel and his men just kind of walk in and say, "Okay, this is ours now." And they start looking for food. They start looking for guns. They find out they've got a lot of provisions there, and so this is great. They may not have as many guns as they wanted, but what they figure out is that they've now got this stronghold, and it's a place that they can use to set up a government. It's a place where they can set up a jail. It's a fort. I mean, it's big. It's got a wall around it. They're now in a stronghold. Now, so Riel sets up what's called a provisional government. That's a temporary government, but he means business. He means business. He wants to be able to challenge Ottawa. He wants to be able to say, "We want to be a province. We want certain rights. We want French and English to both of those to be our provincial official languages." Now, really, he probably could have said Cree as well, but I mean, there's only so far Ottawa was going to go, and Ottawa was not going to do much for our First Nations people. Everything they said to them was just a matter of convenience. It was a lot of like lies. Now, not everybody was happy about Riel being a leader. There were some English-speaking Protestants in the Red River Colony. And they formed a party, and they called it the Canada Party. And they wanted to They didn't want to see these French Catholic half-breeds in real control. So a whole bunch of them, the English Protestant farmers, they organize themselves. They get a small army together to fight Riel and to take back the fort. And one of them has he has a local general store, and he's got some guns and he's got some ammunition and these kinds of things. And so these men organize themselves, and they all are huddled up in this store, ready to go and try and take back Fort Garry. And Riel and his men find out about it, and they go and they round them up, and they take them by force and put them in jail in the fort. Without a trial, they put them in jail in the fort for just conspiring to go against this new nation of the Métis. Now, one guy in particular, this one guy named Thomas Scott, he's a mouthpiece. He is a real chirper. He just insults the guards. He goes on and on about the Métis are a bunch of cowards and that they are half-breeds who don't belong in power. And he's incessant. He goes on and on, day after day. He's chirping at the guards, and then he ends up assaulting one of the guards, and he ends up actually saying, "If I break out of here, I'm going to kill Riel." He had broken out once before, actually, and they ended up catching him, getting him back in jail. And he says, "If I break out of here, I'm killing Riel." And that becomes essentially the crime that he gets tried for. The Métis put Thomas Scott, an English-speaking Protestant from Ontario. He was only about 28 years old, I think. And they put him in front of a jury of seven members, and the jury vote unanimously to kill him. Now, Riel was not on that jury, and Riel was not the one who pulled the trigger. But it's the same kind of thing. If I'm the teacher on yard duty, and somebody out there throws a snowball, and I don't stop it, and somebody out there gets hurt by that snowball, I'm the one in trouble. I didn't make the snowball, I didn't throw the snowball, but by me allowing it to happen, I would be the one who gets in trouble. Well, that's what happened for Riel. Look at this. So Thomas Scott, we're talking only 2 years after Riel came home. He came home in 1868. This is within 3 years, I guess. Thomas Scott has bad-mouthed guards, and he threatens to kill Riel. Now, Thomas Scott is tried by a jury for plotting murder and treason, and he is assassinated publicly. They brought him out. Everybody saw it. It was a firing squad, and anyone who wanted to watch got to see. And people used to go and watch people be put to death back then, if you can believe it. It was I don't know, somehow what you did. Anyway, Riel, and this publicly proves that Riel means business. He is willing to allow this to happen because he is so serious about wanting to stop Ottawa from just taking over and totally dismissing the Métis people. I mean, they had lived there for generations, for many generations. At least 50 years, the Red River settlement had been set up. So that gives you, probably up to great-grandparents. The great-grandparents arrived, and then the grandparents, and then the parents, and then the children. So we're talking at least probably 4 generations. And Ottawa's just going to come in and take their land from them and give it to white English-speaking people and just dismiss the Métis altogether. Well, Riel understands how laws work, and he's very intelligent, and he's very proud. And he says, no, that's not going to happen. So he's okay with them killing Thomas Scott. But it blows up. It blows up. In Ontario, Riel loses support from the English in Red River. Sorry, in Red River, he loses support from the English, but he also loses support from the English all over in Ontario. It's all over the news. that this man, Thomas Scott, a young farmer, is murdered for, for unjust cause in Red River. And they blame Riel. They put Riel's name on it. And even though he wasn't the one on the jury and he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, Riel gets the blame. Ottawa hears about the murder and they call him a national traitor. He's going against the prime minister. He's doing things illegally. Now, the French see him, the French in Red River and in Quebec, they see him as protecting their culture. The Métis feel strongly that he's their leader and that he is justified in having done that. And in Quebec, support for him is going up. I mean, that he's really dividing the lines here. If you are Catholic and you're French, you probably think Riel is a hero. If you're English and you're Protestant, you probably think he is a murderous traitor. Now, this provisional government, they make a list of demands. The provisional government makes a list of demands telling Ottawa what they want, including that they want, and like probably the most important thing is that they want Manitoba to become a province. And there's a priest who's sent to Ottawa to deliver this message, and he's a really, really good negotiator, and he's really, really good at sticking to what the purpose is. And he was successful. They get Manitoba. They get a province, even though Riel was this, this guy that they were seeing as a traitor. They get a province out of it. And that was what Riel really wanted in the long run. He wanted something safe for his people, that they could have a place to live. Macdonald, though, fears another rebellion at Red River, right? Here's the thing. The Red River Rebellion was basically when they took over that Fort Garry and they turned away the surveyors and they turned away the lieutenant government. They rebelled against Ottawa. Now, Macdonald fears that there will be an even bigger rebellion. He feels that he's been spoiling those damn half-breeds, okay? Now, he sends troops. By the way, that was a quote. Those weren't my words. That was a quote from Macdonald, and I can prove it to you in a written document. He sends troops. He sends soldiers. Just before they arrive, Riel escapes to the United States. He's on the run now. He's on the lam. He's now a fugitive. But he's happy knowing that his people have a province, and this province will have two official languages, French and English, and there's a separate school system built for the Catholics and a separate school system built for the English. And he's done it. He has succeeded in his goal. And that's not even the end of his career, but that's as far as we're going to go with it for now. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care.